If your child has been in OCD therapy or if you're doing OCD work at home, this is the secret sauce that most people are missing. Stay tuned. That's what's up next. Is your child doing OCD exposures or is in OCD therapy or you are doing it at home and you're just not seeing any improvement? You're not alone. And I'm going to talk to you about why that might be and what you can do to fix it. Hi, my name is Natasha Daniels. I am an anxiety and OCD child therapist, and I make videos to support you raising your child with anxiety and OCD. I've got a couple of them at home as well. And there is one thing that a lot of people miss when they're doing OCD work, whether they are therapists or parents doing it at home themselves. And that is understanding and using the core fear. The core fear gets missed a lot. This is actually part 3 of a 3-part series, and you can catch part 1 and part 2 over here, and I'll leave a link below as well. In part 1, I talked about what is a core fear. A core fear is the feared consequence of all the OCD themes, of all the compulsions. You've got 1 or 2 core fears that are dictating and controlling all the OCD themes and all those compulsions you're seeing. So that is important, because instead of getting overwhelmed and sidetracked by a million gazillion different compulsions, you recognize this is all 1 or 2 OCD themes that are all coming from 1 or 2 core fears. You can have lots of different OCD themes, millions of compulsions, but only 1 or 2 core fears. So that can reduce overwhelm. It can help you understand that you really need to fine tune and target that core fear in whatever OCD exposures you're doing. In the second video in part 2, I talk about how do you find the core fear? This is great. Now we agree that it's important. How do I find it? You can watch that video here, and I'll teach you and role play how to talk to your child about the core fear, how to go all the way down that rabbit hole and get to the core fear. But today, I want to show you what magical sauce that has when you take that knowledge and you sprinkle it into an OCD exposure. And so I want to start off by saying that this is psychoeducational and that you really should consult an OCD therapist when you're doing exposures, or be very skilled and knowledgeable yourself before you jump into doing ERP at home. There are courses you can take. I have a course. I'll leave a link right here. Get the knowledge. Go to natashadaniels.com/parenting course and fully understand and train yourself before you do ERP at home, or get a therapist. Go to treatmyocd.com through NoCD, and they have virtual therapy in all 50 states and globally as well. But it's important to know what you're doing before you do it. This is just to show you, because the more you know, the better you'll be able to find the right help and the better execution you'll have at home when you have that skill, training, and knowledge. So ERP stands for Exposure Response Prevention. It is a type of cognitive behavioral therapy that is the evidence-based approach for OCD. And it involves exposing your child to the trigger, to the OCD theme, ideally to the core fear, and then them doing the response prevention, which is a fancy name, for them not doing what OCD wants. OCD wants them to do or avoid something to get that brief relief. We call that a compulsion. So OCD might say, you need to wash your hands, or OCD might say, you need to confess, or OCD might say, you need to tap twice before you leave the house. Those are compulsions. Or OCD might say, you might mentally review that conversation in your head, or mentally argue why you are not this thing. Right? It doesn't always have to be physical. It could involve you. It could be mental. It could be them washing their hands. All those things are compulsions. And the more they do those compulsions, the bigger OCD grows. And so the idea of ERP is to go to the OCD gym, metaphorically, and build your muscles. Learn how to handle discomfort so that when OCD is bothering you, you're like, I've been practicing this all day. I can have this intrusive thought or feeling without the need to get that brief relief by doing that compulsion. I'm going to resist the compulsion because I can tolerate this anxiety or discomfort. That's the key. And so that's the very brief description of ERP. You need to do your homework, take a course, talk to an OCD therapist, read good books to really understand it. But let's just talk about what that will look like in reality. So in my second video, I talk about 3 different scenarios of where we're trying to find core fears. In the first video, I talk about a girl who is washing her hands. So the compulsion is excessively washing her hands. Now, we might jump to the conclusion that she's afraid of germs, her core fear is getting sick, and we need to do exposures that involve her just touching things that make her feel sick. So maybe she needs to touch germy things or go somewhere where people get sick and sit with the discomfort of that. We might think she just needs to resist washing her hands. And that's actually a big mistake too, is that people think when it comes to ERP that it just means not doing the compulsion. And I actually have a video here on offense and defense to explain that OCD is a two-prong approach, in my opinion. It is offense and defense. Defense is when OCD comes and bothers me, I am not going to scratch its itch. I'm not going to be bossed around by OCD. So if OCD says, oh, your hands are dirty, you need to go wash them, my defense is I'm going to try to delay it. And if I can successfully delay it, I might try to ignore it. I'm not going to wash at all. I might even try to do the opposite and retouch the thing that it said made my hands dirty. That's defense. It's defense because I'm responding to OCD. Offense is exposure response prevention. Offense means I'm going to purposely trigger that. I'm going to do something on purpose that triggers OCD. So that might mean that I'm going to go and touch something that OCD says is contaminated. But OCD wasn't bothering me in that moment. I'm taking the initiative to say, you know what? I'm going to do an exposure right now, and I'm going to purposely go touch something in my house that OCD is like, do not touch that. But OCD didn't start bothering me. I bothered it. That's ERP. The RP is I'm not going to go wash my hands afterwards. I'm not going to do the compulsion that will make OCD happy. So they look different, but they can look vastly different when you sprinkle that special sauce on top and you know what core fear you're targeting. So for instance, if we didn't know why that girl was washing her hands, we might give her a completely wrong exposure. We might have her go around touching doorknobs and she's not afraid of doorknobs, or go touch something that that we think is dirty when she's not afraid of that. So understanding the core fear is important. In the second video, we learned that her core fear is around pee. And what's the grossest part about it?
I feel like I may have gotten pee on them.
And that her core fear is actually a core feeling, that she is afraid of having pee on her because it feels disgusting. Okay, yeah, I could see where you'd think that is gross. What is the grossest part? What will happen?
Nothing. It's just gross and I won't like it.
Now I have a lot of information. And so my exposure might start with maybe her just touching something that her OCD says has pee on it and then not washing her hands. But now I know her core fear is the fear that she won't be able to tolerate having pee on her. Now, of course, nobody wants pee on us. That's disgusting. But when you have OCD, it dominates your life. It dominates your thoughts. And so knowing that that's her core fear, we might sprinkle that in an exposure. So for example, we might do an exposure. This is going to sound gross, but sometimes ERP can be gross. You have to kind of swing a little bit farther over here to get back to the middle. If her core fear is pee, then I might have a cup of something in the room that may or may not have pee in it. You know, maybe like a paper cup that someone may or may not have peed in. And the idea of her just sitting near that is an exposure. So I'm not even talking about hand washing in that exposure. I'm going right for the core fear. The core fear is about pee. We're doing an exposure that's going to tackle the pee. That's an example, right? So you think more related to the core fear. Let's talk about a second one. So in the second video, we also had a child who was inspecting their food and was making sure that there was nothing wrong with their food. Now, we might assume that they're worried about chemicals in their food, or we might assume that they're worried that there's something wrong with their food. We can make all these assumptions. And when we explored that in the second video, her core fear was that she thought she was going to throw up. She didn't want anything on her food that might make her throw up. That was her core fear. If you got sick, though, what does OCD say would happen?
Throwing up and not being able to stop.
Yeah, so you're worried about throwing up and not being able to stop. And so, if that is her core fear, when we're doing exposures, we might do basic exposures that say, close your eyes and eat this, right? And then she can't inspect it and she doesn't know what she ate. And that's an exposure, right? That's like, I'm purposely upsetting my OCD for no reason. I'm closing my eyes, I'm eating something blindly. I may or may not get sick. I didn't get time to inspect it. But is that really scratching the itch for her core fear, which is throwing up? That's her core fear. So it doesn't mean that we don't do these other exposures. Those are really great exposures, right? Touching something and not washing your hands, eating food with your eyes closed and having to live with the unknown. Those are good, but they're extra, extra good when you start to build up and sprinkle on the core fear. So if she's afraid of throwing up and that's her core fear, maybe besides doing those type of exposures, we're going to go for the head of the beast for the throw up. And so maybe we go to a pharmacy that has, I don't know if you guys have this in your area, but we have it in my area, pharmacies that have little like minute clinics. And so you can go there if you're not feeling well and you can see a nurse and get medicine. And it's like just a quick way without having to go to the doctor. That'd be a great exposure for someone who's afraid of throwing up, who has emetophobia. The idea of being around people who might have a stomach virus is really, really scary. So we might build up to just walking in that place and walking out. You are, you don't even have to go near that area. You walk in, you walk out, and then you eat something. That could be overwhelming. Or they don't even eat something. And then maybe as we build up, they walk in, they walk all the way around by the waiting room, and then they walk around and then they leave. That has nothing to do with eating, but we're attacking the core fear, which is with the fear of throwing up, which is the thing that's driving all of the compulsions around eating. So you can do all of those things. It's just you want to sprinkle in sometimes the core fear, because when you attack the core fear and you help them build the resilience to deal with that core fear, all the other things down that triangle that are bothering them, the OCD themes, the anxiety themes, all the compulsions, they weaken because you're weakening the top of the triangle. Now, in the final example in the second video, we talk about a girl who has a lot of magical thinking compulsion. So she's skipping some of the tiles in her house because she doesn't want to step on the wrong ones and cause her family to die. That's a very common OCD magical thinking compulsion. The OCD theme was harm OCD. The core fear was over responsibility and then being depressed and not being able to live with herself. That was her core fear. Well, if you had to guess, what do you think OCD would say?
Something bad might happen.
Okay, and that's common. A lot of people with OCD have those thoughts. What does OCD say could happen? What bad thing could happen?
Maybe one of you will die and it will be my fault.
I get that could be really scary. We could just do exposures where she purposely steps on the wrong tiles, and that would be an okay beginning exposure. Let's just do the opposite of what OCD wants. So we're going to purposely wake up and start stepping on the wrong tiles. But once our kids can get used to those bottom level exposures, it's really helpful then to sprinkle in the core fear. And so if her core fear is responsibility, then maybe, and this is going to sound weird, exposures do sound weird. So let me just brace you for that. And we do this in collaboration with our kids. We never do this to them. Like we create lots of different ideas like this and we make a menu and they pick which ones they want to do. They earn bravery points that they can cash in for prizes. You make it fun. I have lots of resources on how to make it fun. I'll leave a link on how to do effective incentives because that's a big part of it. I'm telling you all this because this exposure is going to sound weird. And so maybe instead of just having her walk on different tiles that her OCD says she can't walk on, maybe we get sticky notes. And on those sticky notes, we put different things like dad breaks a leg, mom gets food poisoning. Have the child make it up because you never want to create these things out of your own imagination. You want to take it from OCD's imagination. But maybe I put those sticky notes on the tiles that they won't walk on. And they have to choose which tile they want to step on that has those horrible things that will happen to their family. That's getting to the core fear because now they are purposely picking things that are going to harm their parents. And that's what OCD has been threatening them with. OCD is not threatening with, don't step on that tile. That's just what you're seeing. What OCD is threatening them with is you're going to be responsible for something bad happening. So when you attack that core fear and you attach it to the exposure that you're doing over time, you don't start with that. That's too much. You build up to it. Whoa, that's powerful because now you are attacking the head of the beast. You are going for the top of the triangle and attacking the core fear, addressing the core fear, reducing the stress around the core fear so that all the other things in the triangle lose as much power. That way, when OCD shifts and morphs and changes into different themes, it doesn't matter because you're still doing different exposures, but you're sprinkling in that core fear still. I hope that you found that helpful. I hope that opens up your eyes to the secret sauce that you might be missing in really understanding the core fear and attaching the core fear to all the approaches that you're using in your home. Understanding the core fear doesn't mean that you're processing and rationalizing the core fear away. It doesn't mean you're going to sit there and then tell them why they're not going to throw up or why they're not responsible for hurting their family. You're using it as a tool in the exposure. Well, stay tuned for next week while we have new topics coming at you to support you raising your child with anxiety and OCD. I hope that you find the sparkle in everything you do, and I'll talk to you again next Wednesday. Take care.